It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Satyam Priyadarshy. Dr. Priyadarshy is Chief Data Scientist at Halliburton, and he is a veteran of the data science scene. He is a global leader who transforms businesses by leveraging big data, data science, and emerging technologies. As the key AI leader at a Fortune 150 company, there are few better to kick off an AI for Enterprise conference. Please join me in welcoming Satyam to the stage with some virtual claps. Thank you very much, Satyam.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are attending from. We live in the era of compounded disruption, and we all hear about artificial intelligence being used in everything today. So I want to discuss something about the valuable AI and how do we tame the compounded disruption. At the very onset, let me actually thank a number of people who actually encourage me, empower me, and enable me to speak on these topics. Most importantly, my school teachers, after my parents, and then my PhD advisor. You can see their pictures on the left-hand side. And then, of course, my family, my extended family, and a lot of my friends and their families, because before COVID, I used to travel a lot and I used to visit them so I can get good food, actually. But then, of course, most importantly, like all of you who are attending this event, and that's the most important part, and the invitation that I got from Daniel and his team. Now, what I want to cover is the application of artificial intelligence, right? What needs to be done? It should be like continuous. It has to be context in the right context, and it should be comprehensive, because what we are trying to do is talking about AI in a very generic term, and then it confuses a lot of people, and especially when we are talking about the era of compounded disruption. So I'll say how we can actually, what is needed to generate the value from AI rather than talking about just AI in everything. So if you look at it, artificial intelligence is not new, right? The concept was about 60 years ago talked about as is to mimic human intelligence, but its use responsibly and how to remain effective will actually make us a player in what I call industry 4.0 era. And beyond, when the machine to machine communication becomes stronger than human to machine communication. And if we look at it, then what we need to really do, it's the application of artificial intelligence in the right context to generate value is much better application of artificial intelligence than the greatest hype about AI in small things, and suddenly saying AI is in this, AI is in that. It's about what value can we create. So what is the compounded disruption that we talk about? If you look at last couple of years, you will see these are some of the disruptions that are taking place. First, all about digital transformation, digitalization. So this digital maturity is pretty misunderstood concept, and so that is causing a disruption. Second is the pace at which emerging technologies are coming, and the pace at which we are actually adopting them is there is a gap, and that gap is growing significantly in many industries, whereas some industries are able to keep up with it. And since I work for energy industry, there is a whole concept of energy transition landscape, and that is evolving into a complex landscape, as we all know. And something that we would not have talked about until November or December of 2019. That's the impact of a pandemic, which is still unknown. A lot of things are unknown about this. As we can see, the use of artificial intelligence algorithms and models haven't resulted in much success of predicting anything about this pandemic as well. Then how does it all relate to? It actually relates in the failure of strategy that we have the execution remains out of sync because we don't know how to address those deep disruptions. And the talent readiness in certain industries is really a challenge, whether how do we take a digital transformation going forward. So but if you think of it, the digital maturity plays a significant role, and digital is at the core of a core of any business today. And for us it has been very important. And since in the context of oil and gas industry, I can tell you that it is critical, because it actually reduces the cost to produce energy, as well as reduces the time to find the first oil, as we call it, and then of course reduces and increases the value of all the across the entire value chain, the performance, the operational value, and and the value of the talent that is being leveraged to create this digital driven solutions. Now if we look at it, how does that simple digital value creation takes place? In a very simple concept, uh, it is as simple as building, you leveraging a data universe. Then you build what I call data science models. I have on purpose not used pure artificial intelligence here, because artificial intelligence is a subset of data science. And then building these inference engines so that you can build what I call actionable insights. Of course, it's a very simple way of putting things in a four bucket, but the underlying, there is more complexity that goes beyond. In order to achieve these actionable insights, so you can create value across the life cycle, what we use is what is called a smart approach. Now, this smart approach is different from the smart that you learn into HR and leadership courses. Here it is all related to how do I create data driven innovation, that is how do I simplify from data ingestion to data value creation, how do I mash up data sets that we would never thought of it, how do I do these things in an agile fashion, because if you build a model once, how do I actually incorporate new data sets that are coming, and then how does it extend the reachability of that model beyond a small silo, so their context gets bigger and better. And then of course all these things have to be done in a technology agnostic manner. This is the smart approach that we have actually built over the last couple of years for data driven innovation, and this results in significant value. This is, I'm talking about valuable AI. This is very important. There is an example here of actually leveraging artificial intelligence algorithms which has been modified from typical natural language processing to something I call it technology language processing, which are unique in its own terms, so that I can extract C, which is the symptoms, events, and action from what is called unstructured data. And here in this case, by mining something like 16,000 plus PDF files, and this small section of that PDF files, we were able to actually show a value worth 200 million per year for what is called reduction in 2% of non-productive time. So when you are applying these artificial intelligence algorithms in the right context, significant value is generated. And that's how actually it defines the strategy to move forward in applications of these artificial intelligence algorithms. In order to do that, one has to understand that this foundation actually lies in the what I call the talent transformation. Because as I said earlier, context is very, very critical. One actually already talks about design thinking and digital and cloud paradigms, but these all have to come together to actually disrupt the compounded disruptions that I talked to you earlier. But the talent plays a significant role. Now, when we leverage these foundational aspects of digital maturity, we can actually generate value in all aspects of oil well life cycle. In this case, an example, but I can talk about other industry verticals from my past experience as well. But you can actually do a systematic manner and leverage these exponential technologies to actually generate value. So some of those exponential technologies that we can talk about if are this ecosystem. That is the cloud computing paradigm, the sensor paradigm, the robotics, the drones, augmented and virtual reality. And of course, as we all know, cybersecurity becomes an ingrained component of all these technologies. And eventually, to deal with the data and other things, this cryptography and others, blockchain will play a significant role as well. If once one has leveraged those things, then we can actually see that the value creation can be very comprehensive. That is, one can actually democratize the data uh, in a way that you don't have to share the data but democratize the knowledge, so that you can build integrated view of your business life cycle and look at things in a real time fashion, and eventually build what is an autonomous system, or in some cases people would call it digital twin. And this is that value generation from leveraging artificial intelligence is actually very, very important. What I talk to you in a very, very simple terms, why valuable AI is more important than just talking about AI or narrow AI or explainable AI. For my definition, everything that we do in AI has to be explainable if it generates value. So otherwise, there is no point. So explainability is an internal core of artificial intelligence. How much value you generate is critical. And with that, many of these things I have written, and there are some other, especially in oil and gas sector, there are some other books that people have written. You can read them. Uh, with that, I will stop here. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Thanks very much.